Welcome back from the break. You're still watching Morning Rush here on Metro Television. And before the break, we were talking about malaria. That's our conversation for this morning. We'll be looking at the World Malaria Day, what the theme is this year. But definitely, when it comes to Ghana and malaria, it looks like we are like this. You know, we've been trying to, kick it down for a very long time. Looks like we make some strides and then we get back in there. But let me just begin with some statistics, because in 2022, the World Health Organization estimated that there were an estimated 5.3 million malaria cases with 11,557 estimated deaths recorded. That's worldwide. And when you come to Ghana, according to the Ghana Demographic and Health Survey, malaria prevalence ranges from 11.2 to 40%. That's how high it is. And I'm sure that when you go on the streets and you ask anybody, what's the easiest disease you can think of when it comes to Ghana, I'm sure everybody will say malaria. Right? That's what comes to mind. And so this morning we'll be joined in the studio by two guests. Let me just get to them. Harriet Lamte-Mills is a pharmacist at BLISS GVS PHARMA Ghana, and also joining us is Jean Boadi-Boaten, who is the manager at BLISS GVS PHARMA Ghana. We're having this conversation about malaria this morning. Good morning and welcome to the show.
Good morning.
Hope you're well.
Good. Very.
Jean, you definitely agree with me that Ghana malaria like this.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, the night I was singing earlier, and I remember when we were very young, we'd see that on TV, malaria, future, and all of those things. Have we made some strides? Are we getting better with the data on fighting malaria?
So I would say yes. I think yesterday we had a donation at one hospital, and then they made us aware that the cases of malaria they get has reduced drastically. Yeah. So even the amount of malaria drugs they stock now is quite low, and I was very impressed because initially some of these hospitals focused more on malaria drugs, stocking huge quantities, but now it looks as if the cases are reducing. Although we are entering the rainy season, yeah, it looks like the cases are reducing. So I'm sure we are making headway.
That's a good thing to hear in that case. And for you as a pharmacist, I'm sure that when people come to the pharmacy, I'm feeling some way, the first thing that comes to mind is more malaria. They may not even tell you that, they'll just say, more malaria. That's what they say, right? Yes. Do you think that the understanding of what the symptoms of malaria are, people understand that? Or they still have like the old thing like, it's just malaria. Anything that happens to them is malaria.
Okay. People pretty much in Ghana would first relate to malaria because it's the easiest. They don't want to think deadly. So the easy thing it's easy to treat as well. I mean, when it comes to the treatment, they would want to be much more inclined to say it's malaria than to say it's typhoid. So pretty much people have just a basic idea about what malaria is or what this should be.
And at first, they will just walk into the pharmacy and get any drug. But looks like now you have to test before.
Yes. So pretty much now there is the act or the malaria initiative that's ongoing in the country, and it's more of you treat before you test before you treat. You don't just blind treat, because sometimes when you want to blind treat, like the symptoms of malaria, typhoid, the symptoms run across even to COVID. So what initially would have been malaria may be COVID. So you'd have to test to be sure you are not malaria positive before you think of the other options. If you are malaria positive, then we treat you for malaria.
And Jean, back to you, generally when we're talking about the causes of malaria, as you mentioned, the rainy season is just around the corner, and growing up we had choked gutters, the mosquito breeding, and all of these things. Generally, if you interact with people, do they have a sense of keeping the environment clean or the causes of malaria? Do people still understand that?
People do. People do, because they know malaria is caused by a mosquito bite. So for that, they know. Now, the whole process of how it comes about and how you can prevent it is something they are not keen on. They are not so interested in. Yes, they will try as much as possible to prevent the malaria bite. However, if they are bitten, and they get malaria, they know they can easily get into a pharmacy and get a drug. So it's more as if they are focused on, yes, there's mosquito bites. If I'm bitten, I'll get a drug, so I'm fine. The preventive aspect is not something they're so keen on. So like as you were saying, mosquito nets, choked gutters, they're trying to prevent the mosquito from biting them. It's not something they're keen on. So I think it's one of the main areas we have to focus on, the prevention, not just the cure.
Okay. So guys, as we were saying here on the show today, I think that a lot of people have come to understand what malaria is, but yet again, some also just go to the pharmacy, as I was saying earlier, say more malaria. You've not tested to see you've got malaria, and that is why the education keeps going on. And for this year's World Malaria Day, it's got a very nice theme that I'll be sharing with you in a bit. But let me ask, Jean, this year with the theme, the drive from your outfit also doing that also with the malaria drive, what are you doing?
So we are doing a couple of things. We are having donations to several hospitals. In Greater Accra like this, I think we've done donations to about 10 hospitals at least.
Okay.
In other regions, we are doing 5, including like main hospitals like Cape Coast Teaching Hospitals and others. We also have talks with nursing schools to educate the nurses, because most of the times when they get to the hospitals, it's the nurses that get in touch with the patients. We also go to pharmacies to interact with pharmacists, MCAs, to interact with the patients when they walk in. So it's not as if when someone just walks in and is tested positive with malaria and you just treat, let the person go. At least interact with the person, find out where the person stays, if the person is in treated nets, their surroundings, if there are bush around, if there's choked gutters. So in as much as we are just trying to treat, we want to interact with the patients so that it's not as if, yes, they get malaria, they are cured, in the next 3-4 months, the same person comes back with the malaria. So we have CMEs with hospitals, with health professionals, even at times with the community. We have market activations where we go to market. I think last year we went to one market, we educated them on malaria, how to prevent the mosquito bites and all that. So we are doing quite a lot.
And Harriet, as a pharmacist yet again, that's the first step that anybody that feels any way gets to, get some drugs or whatever. What would you say to, viewers, to people out there, when it comes to malaria and what they should be doing at the pharmacy? When you get to the pharmacy, what are the things that you should be doing rather than saying that saying that you have malaria? Yeah.
Okay, so once you walk into the pharmacy, know that you've come to see a professional in the pharmacy, because every pharmacy is supposed to have a pharmacist, so has a pharmacist.
Somebody said it's supposed. It's supposed to have, because when you get into a pharmacy, you see some people there. Wonder if they continue mentioning the drug that maybe we got it from the hospital for Lucan, but I understand.
Oh well, then once there's a pharmacist in the premise, you know that you're going to talk to a professional. Yeah. Tell them your symptoms rather than tell them what you think or you diagnose yourself with. Because your symptoms may look similar and they could bring other options. Sometimes, generally, with the symptoms that come with malaria, it could just be stress. Somebody has malaria, feel tired, feel weak. Maybe you're just anemic. You don't have malaria. Wenumato, yes. Generally, if you are stressed, you will not have an appetite. So why go treat malaria? So come and then talk to the professional, and then extensive questioning. When I do question you to the latter end, I'm going to know, okay, no, I think you don't need an antimalarial. Let's just try this option. When it works, we are going to, anyway, if you want to treat malaria, I'll give you the options to be tested, sorry. I'll give you, if you want to test for malaria, I'll give you the options to be tested for, because you're trying to rule out other options. So the professional gives you the option, and then we take it from there. We don't just start with, okay, your symptoms I think is malaria. No, there's so many things in view. Sometimes you just didn't eat so well, so you're going to feel sick. It doesn't mean I should go ahead to treating malaria. So pretty much that is it.
And in a case where the person comes and the person cannot even talk because they must have stayed home for a while, and then it takes time. about 3 days, and now it gets very severe, and then now come into the pharmacy. How urgent should we be treating these things when we have symptoms of, sicknesses that we need to rush to the pharmacy or even to the hospital?
Okay, and on the subject of
Malaria, yes, sure.
When it comes to the severity, you're going to realize that your symptoms or your signs is what is going to give you the severity. We come in, usually, unfortunately, for some pharmacies, they may not be able to check your temperature right at the spur of the moment, but temperature spikes come with malaria. If you are having a temperature spike really higher, we're going to have to give you something to help reduce that's fever. We have to reduce the temperature because that in itself could cause, but we can only manage the symptoms. We cannot treat you for severe malaria in the pharmacy because it goes against the code of ethics for pharmacy. Unfortunately, too, we will not be able to tell that you have severe malaria right then because it's your symptoms, and some people have an exaggeration. I cannot tell. Somebody is just having chills and they're just like they're dying, but pretty much it's just 37. Somebody has 39, they're like, oh, I feel cold, and they're just cool about it. So the severity would still have to treat you with orals, but then you take, the whole point is the first and your second dose apart. When we give you anti-malarial, you take your first dose, it's after 8 hours you're supposed to take your second dose. Those two, that second dose is supposed to make the change.
Okay.
It's 8 hours after the first one. It's supposed to make the change. You don't see any significant change. Sometimes people have a late reaction, but it's a cause to say, I want to go to the hospital. We would actually advise that you go to the hospital because when you come back to the pharmacy, I can only pretty much give you the injection, but I can't give you the injection in the pharmacy because of the code of ethics. So when it comes to severity of malaria, we don't do that in pharmacies. Okay,
interesting. I think I'm going to stay with you before I go back to Jean. The drugs, when we get to the pharmacies and we're given the drugs, you know, 1, 2, 3, like I could just move about. So like, I'm okay, the malaria is gone. And so we don't take the drugs anymore. And then we realize that another time, or not so long, then it hits us again. Tell us about it, how we should be taking the drugs we're given when we go to the pharmacy, especially for malaria.
Okay.
Almost say though. Is that a
no.
Okay.
No, the taste has been matched quite a lot. I mean, there's a lot of productions that pharmacy has done quite a lot with techniques and production of drugs. Okay. But to the question you asked, so what happens, there are various types of anti-malarials, but the majority or the most used in Ghana is the AL, the artemether-lumefantrine. Okay. And so with the artemether-lumefantrine, there is a standard dose of taking it. Usually there are actually doses depending on your age, but then the time for taking it remains the same. Once you take your very first dose at 0 hour, let's say it's 12 a.m. now, and you take your first tablet or your prescribed dose now, the next tablet is supposed to be 8 hours after from the first. So 0, then 8 hours after. That's, let's say, if 12 a.m., then 8 a.m. Very key. The 8 hours is very key and very crucial. Because that helps with the drastic reduction of the parasitic load or the parasite load in the system. Now, if you miss that timing, it's going to quite affect you. But then yet still, we still tell you to finish the dosage. From there, you're going to do 24 hours from the next one. So you expect to take your third tablet or your third dose at 12 a.m. again. Then from there, you have to do 12 hours, intersperse it. So from the 12, another 12 hours from the 12, then every 12-hour dose you intersperse it to take it. That's the usual dosage. And
you have to finish it.
You have to finish it to the end. It's a 3-day course, so you have to finish it.
I had to ask that. Yes, just before we wrap up, World Malaria Day, you've talked about the donations and other things that you've been working on. Any other thing that we can touch on real quick before we wrap up?
So as she was saying, there are various drugs for malaria. Each of them has its own method or way of taking it. So if you go to a pharmacy or a hospital and you are given drugs and you are instructed to take it, whether once a day, whether twice a day, whether 3 times a day, whatever instructions the health worker has given you, please follow through. Because if you don't, in the long run, there's something called resistance. Resistance also affects how drugs operate in us and all that. So that's one aspect. We'd also look at the preventive aspect. I think it's something I'm very keen on. Yes,
preventing it in the first place.
Prevent it from happening.
Yeah.
So that in as much as we are trying to cure it, yes, we prevent the number of cases we are getting. So I think it's two main things we have to focus on as a country: the prevention, and then in the curing parts, you making sure you follow through.
Okay.
What
you've been told to do.
Tells you, yeah.
All right. So this year's theme for World Malaria Day is accelerating the fight against malaria for a more equitable world. And so I'm sure you'll be seeing a lot of that around as we celebrate the day. Those of you who have choked gutters, please clear them. The rainy season is upon us. Clear them before you breed mosquitoes and they'll enter tukuru and get into your room. Get your, you can spray the room also. It's been a while, it's not coiled though, but spray your room. Also, you've got to try and get the nets for safety. Charlie, dem keke. That's it. Yeah. So that's it with our conversation this morning. Thank you very much for coming through. Jean Bwedi Boateng is manager at BLISS GVS PHARMA Ghana, and also Harriet Lampton Mills is a pharmacist at BLISS GVS PHARMA Ghana, and she's had a good time. But I can tell.